Okay. Ready to unlock some higher worlds.
Let's do it.
We're diving into Rudolf Steiner's How to Know Higher Worlds today.
Oh, yeah. A classic.
It's a classic guide to developing those hidden senses.
Yeah.
We've all heard about them.
Right. And what's interesting is how Steiner approaches this.
Yeah.
It's not about, mystical rituals or secret societies. It's about a very systematic approach
Okay.
to inner development.
Okay.
He lays out a 3-stage path.
Okay.
Preparation, illumination, and initiation.
3 stages, huh?
Yeah.
It's like leveling up in a video game.
You could say that.
But where do we even begin?
Well, Steiner says the foundation is inner work.
Hmm.
He calls it preparation.
Okay.
And it's all about cultivating specific qualities within yourself before you even think about seeing anything in those higher worlds.
No, it's not about looking for something out there.
No.
It's about changing something in here.
Exactly. One of the key qualities he emphasizes is reverence.
Reverence.
And not just for knowledge or spiritual tradition, but a deep respect for the world around you.
Yeah.
And for every single person.
I can see how respecting others would be important.
Right.
But Steiner connects this to actually boosting your cognitive power.
Yeah.
That's a bit of a leap for me.
It might seem like a stretch,
Yeah.
but think about it this way.
Okay.
When you're constantly criticizing others,
Uh-huh.
your mind is focused on negativity.
Right.
But when you genuinely appreciate their good qualities, it shifts your energy. And Steiner believes strengthens your capacity for understanding. It's like choosing to focus on what expands your awareness rather than what contracts it.
Okay. I'm starting to see how that might work. It's like mental strength training, right?
Yeah.
Instead of dwelling on what bugs me about someone, I consciously try to find something admirable.
Exactly.
Does Steiner give any specific tips for putting this into practice?
He does. He suggests practicing reverence even in your thoughts.
Okay.
So let's say there's someone you just can't stand.
Yeah.
Instead of feeding that negative energy, try to actively recall their good qualities, even if it feels forced at first.
Is this like some kind of spiritual fake it till you make it?
You could say that.
Okay.
It's about consciously directing your thoughts and feelings,
Right.
training your mind to perceive the world different.
And this is all part of that preparation stage.
Yeah.
What else does Steiner say we need to work on?
He places a lot of emphasis on self-control, not just controlling your actions, but your thoughts and speech as well.
Okay.
He talks about avoiding meaningless chatter
Right.
and choosing your words carefully,
Yeah.
making sure they have substance and meaning.
So less scrolling through social media
Yeah.
and more mindful conversations.
That's one way to put it.
Okay.
It's about bringing awareness to how you use your energy, both internally and externally.
It sounds like this preparation stage is already a pretty big undertaking.
It is.
But I guess it makes sense. You wouldn't go climbing Mount Everest without some serious training and the right equipment.
That's a great analogy.
Yeah.
Steiner sees this path as a real ascent
Yeah.
into higher realms of consciousness.
Okay.
And preparation is about making sure you're strong enough,
Yeah.
both mentally and ethically,
Right.
to handle what you might encounter.
Okay. I'm starting to see how this all fits together.
Good.
But let's say I've been working on myself,
Yeah.
cultivating that reverence and self-control.
Okay.
What's next on this path? Is this where we start seeing auras and stuff?
Not quite yet.
Okay.
The next stage is called illumination.
Okay.
And while it does involve perceiving subtle energies, it's more nuanced than just seeing colorful auras.
Okay, so you've got my attention.
Right.
What exactly does illumination entail?
Steiner describes it as a stage where the lines and figures of the spiritual world, which were previously hidden, become illuminated.
Okay.
He uses color analogies, saying you might perceive a blue hue emanating from stones, for instance. But he's clear that this isn't about seeing with your physical eyes.
So what am I actually experiencing?
Yeah.
Is it like a feeling and intuition?
It's more like an inner knowing that corresponds to certain colors.
Okay.
Think of it as developing new senses that perceive the spiritual essence of things.
Okay.
And these spiritual senses are activated through specific exercises.
Exercises, huh?
Yeah.
So it's not just about passively waiting for something to happen.
No.
I have to actively participate in this process.
Absolutely. Steiner talks about exercises involving intense observation of natural processes.
Okay.
For example, you might spend time contemplating a single stone,
Okay.
not just observing its shape and texture,
Right.
but trying to grasp its inner being, its essence.
That's an interesting way to look at a rock.
Right.
I usually just try not to trip over them.
Well, that's the everyday consciousness that Steiner is trying to shift us out of. He wants us to see beyond the superficial, to penetrate the veil of the ordinary, and perceive the hidden forces at work in the world.
Okay, I have to admit, this is starting to sound pretty intriguing.
Good.
But are these exercises really enough to unlock these hidden senses?
Well,
What about all those stories of people having spontaneous, mystical experiences?
Steiner acknowledges those experiences,
Okay.
but he believes that true spiritual development is a conscious and deliberate process. It's like learning a new skill.
Okay.
You wouldn't expect to become a concert pianist overnight.
Right.
It takes dedicated practice and effort.
Right?
And that's what these exercises are designed to do.
Okay.
To train your attention, refine your perception, and ultimately awaken those dormant faculties within you.
So we're talking about more than just seeing auras.
Much more.
This is about developing a whole new way
Yes.
of perceiving and understanding reality.
Exactly. And this illumination stage is all about bridging the gap between the physical world and the spiritual realm. It's about starting to perceive those hidden connections and forces that shape our lives.
And this is just the beginning, right?
Anything.
There's a whole other stage initiation where things get even more intense.
Indeed.
But before we dive into that,
Okay.
let's take a moment to really let this idea of illumination sink in.
I like that.
Imagine for a moment that you could perceive the world beyond its physical form, to sense the subtle energies flowing through everything around you.
Okay.
What would that be like?
Yeah.
How would it change your perspective on life? That's quite a thought to ponder.
It is.
And I have a feeling our exploration of Steiner's How to Know Higher Worlds is just getting started.
Me too.
We'll be back soon to delve into the mysteries of initiation.
I look forward to it.
Okay, so we've laid the groundwork with preparation and started to glimpse those higher worlds through illumination. But now I'm really curious about this initiation stage. It sounds like where things get really interesting.
It does.
Maybe even a bit scary.
Yeah. It could be both, for sure.
Okay.
Remember how we talked about those three soul forces, thinking, feeling, and willing?
Right.
And how they're usually all tangled up?
Yeah, like my thoughts trigger certain feelings, which
Right.
then lead me to act or not act.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But Steiner says that for us to truly perceive and interact with the higher worlds, these forces need to separate. He calls it the splitting of the personality.
Whoa, splitting the personality.
Yeah,
That sounds intense.
it is.
Are we talking multiple personalities here?
No, not in the clinical sense.
Okay.
It's not about creating separate identities.
Okay.
Instead, think of it as gaining a new level of mastery over your inner world.
Okay.
Each soul force becomes more independent, allowing you to act directly from your thinking, feeling or willing without them always tripping over each other.
So instead of my thoughts always dictating my feelings,
Right.
I could learn to think purely without that emotional baggage.
Yes.
Or choose to act based on a deep sense of knowing,
Right.
even if my feelings are pulling me in a different direction.
Precisely. It's about developing a higher level of self-awareness and control.
Okay.
But Steiner is very clear that this splitting is not something to be taken lightly.
Right.
It's a gradual process that requires careful guidance
Okay.
and can even involve some pretty intense experiences.
Oh, okay. Now you've got me intrigued and maybe a little apprehensive.
I understand.
What kind of experiences are we talking about?
Steiner describes various trials
Okay.
that initiates might go through
Uh-huh.
as their perception shifts,
Okay.
and their connection to the higher worlds deepens. He mentions a fire trial, for example,
Okay.
where you confront your deepest fears and limiting beliefs.
Confronting your deepest fears. That sounds terrifying, but also kind of liberating.
It can be both.
Is it like facing your shadow self?
Yeah.
All those parts of yourself you'd rather keep hidden?
It's very much about shadow work, and it's not just about confronting fears.
Right.
Steiner talks about other trials as well,
Okay.
like an air trial, where you have to act entirely from inner strength with no external guidance.
Whoa, acting from pure inner knowing with no external support.
Yeah.
That sounds like the ultimate test of self-reliance.
It is. And these trials aren't just random ordeals.
Okay.
They're designed to strengthen your resolve, purify your motives, and prepare you for the immense responsibility
Right.
that comes with accessing higher knowledge and power.
This is all starting to sound a bit like a hero's journey. with all those trials and tests.
It is a kind of hero's journey, but an inward one.
Right.
And just like in those mythic tales,
Yeah.
the hero often encounters guides and guardians along the way.
Okay. This is where I've been wanting to go. Tell me about these guardians, especially the guardian of the threshold that Steiner talks about.
So imagine a being made up of all the unseen consequences of your past actions.
Okay.
Your karma made visible.
Hmm.
It's like a mirror reflecting the totality of your being.
Right.
All those choices that shaped you, both consciously and unconsciously.
So it's not some external entity judging you, but a reflection of your own inner state.
Exactly. And facing this guardian can be terrifying because it forces you to confront aspects of yourself you might have been avoiding or denying.
No wonder it's called a guardian.
Right.
It's like a test to see if you're ready to face the truth about yourself before you're allowed to proceed further.
That's a powerful way to look at it.
Yeah.
And Steiner says there's a second, even greater guardian.
2 guardians.
Yes.
Okay, now I'm really curious. What's the second one about?
This one is all about choice.
Okay.
It represents the crossroads you face. Once you've gained access to the higher worlds and developed those refined spiritual senses, it's a test of your motives and your commitment to using your newfound abilities for good.
So it's not enough to just unlock these higher senses and pass through those initial trials.
Right.
You also have to prove that you'll use your powers wisely and ethically.
Exactly. Steiner calls the selfish path the black path.
Okay.
And the path of service to humanity, the white path.
Wow, black path versus white path.
I know.
Those are pretty stark choices.
They are.
And it sounds like the second guardian is testing whether you've truly integrated those qualities of reverence and selflessness that we talked about earlier.
It is. And it's a choice that each individual must make for themselves.
This is heavy stuff.
It is.
But I'm sensing that there's even more to this initiation stage.
There is.
Steiner also mentioned something about an occult script, right?
He does.
A language of the cosmos.
Yes. And this is where things get even more complex and fascinating. But before we dive into that, let's take a moment to reflect on what we've covered so far.
Okay.
Imagine yourself standing at the threshold of these higher worlds, having gone through those intense trials, and now facing the choice between the black path and the white path.
Right.
What would guide your decision? What kind of impact do you envision yourself having on the world with these newfound abilities?
Those are powerful questions.
They are.
And I think they speak to the heart of what Steiner is trying to convey in How to Know Higher Worlds. It's not just about gaining knowledge or power.
Right.
It's about becoming a more conscious and compassionate human being.
Absolutely.
And it seems like that journey continues as we explore the mysteries of this occult script.
It does. And that exploration will take us even deeper into the mysteries of initiation.
Okay.
The transformative power of connecting with those higher worlds.
Well, I'm ready to dive in. But for now, we'll have to pause our exploration of Steiner's How to Know Higher Worlds.
Okay.
Stay tuned for the final part of our deep dive, where we'll uncover the secrets of that occult script and consider what it all means for us here in the everyday world. All right, we're back. Ready to tackle this occult script, this cosmic language you mentioned.
Let's get into it.
I have to admit, pretty mind-blowing. Is it like, learning to read hieroglyphics or something?
It's even more profound than that.
Okay.
Steiner describes it as a symbolic language that reveals the hidden forces and laws at work in the universe.
So it's not just symbols, it's like the principles behind it all.
Exactly.
Okay, so how do we even begin to learn this language?
Yeah, that's the big question.
Is there like a cosmic dictionary or a Rosetta Stone for this?
He doesn't lay out a literal alphabet or a grammar.
Right.
But he emphasizes that understanding this script comes through direct experience, through deepening your connection to the higher worlds and refining your spiritual senses.
So not from a book. Gotta experience it.
You got it.
Yeah.
Steiner describes how certain symbols and figures might appear during those trials and initiations that we discussed.
Right.
He mentions a symbol, for example, representing the sun spirit, embodies forces of wisdom and illumination.
So they're not just like abstract symbols, they really embody those forces.
That's the key. It's not just intellectual,
Right.
You're experiencing their power and meaning directly.
This sounds a bit like those those ancient mystery schools with, like, secret knowledge through rituals and all that.
There are definitely parallels, yeah.
Yeah.
Steiner saw himself as reviving that ancient wisdom tradition.
Okay.
But adapting it for the modern world.
Right.
And he believed that this knowledge, it should be accessible to anyone willing to do the inner work.
But isn't there, like, a danger making this too accessible? I mean, what if it gets into the wrong hands?
Steiner addresses that directly. He emphasizes that true understanding of this script comes only through genuine spiritual development.
Right.
Cultivating those qualities of reverence, selflessness, and ethical conduct we talked about earlier.
So it's like a safeguard.
Yeah. You could say that.
Okay.
The knowledge reveals itself only to those who are prepared to handle it responsibly.
Right, and to those who aren't prepared.
He believed that misuse would ultimately backfire, harming the individual rather than empowering them.
Yeah, like trying to use a power tool without knowing how.
Exactly. You're more likely to hurt yourself.
Right.
Just like mastering any craft, this takes dedication, patience, and, willingness to learn from mistakes.
Well, this has been an incredible deep dive into Steiner's How to Know Higher Worlds.
It has.
From inner preparation to those intense initiations and then this cosmic language.
Yeah.
What stands out to you most?
I think, for me, it's the emphasis on the interconnectedness of everything. Our inner development, thoughts, feelings, actions. They're not just isolated events. They ripple outwards.
Right.
Shaping the world around us.
Like we're not just watching, we're actually participating.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Co-creating our experience and the destiny of humanity.
Wow.
By cultivating those higher senses, aligning ourselves with those universal forces, we can become more conscious and more compassionate agents of change.
Beautiful thought to end on. So after this deep dive, what resonates with you? What calls to you? As Steiner suggests, there might be hidden worlds waiting, not just out there, but inside us. Keep seeking, exploring, and reaching for those higher realms of knowledge. Until next time.